News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. A 5-year, $15 million research project funded by the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research will look at carbon sequestration, the concept of locking carbon into soils. Jennifer Reeve and Matt Yost of Utah State University's Department of Plant, Soils, and Climate are among the collaborators on the project, which is bringing together researchers from North and South America. Yost explains the challenges.
There's a lot of interest in getting carbon into the soil. We have a lot of carbon in the atmosphere, and that's causing some issues. And so there's a lot of efforts nationally, locally, to offset some of that carbon in the atmosphere and to store it in places like the soil where it can stay and it can be stable for a long time.
Reeve and Yost and their student researchers hope to go to work working production farms in Utah to determine how much carbon is in the soil and gauge the potential to store more.
It's really a benefit to farmers too, to landowners, because the more carbon that we have in the soil, the more organic matter. And I think most understand that organic matter in the soil is really important. It's what makes a soil productive.
The focus of this project closely aligns with Reeve's long-term research focus on farm management, soil carbon stocks, and soil health, and on Yost's focus on sustainability as USU Extension's agroclimate specialist. KVNU News Time is 4:07. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, low around 40, and then sunny upper 70s on Thursday, sunny in mid-70s on Friday. It's 72 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Logan Extermination. Logan Extermination will hang your Christmas lights for you. Whether you own lights or not, Logan Extermination will do it quickly and affordably. Call Logan Extermination at 752-8450.
We might all agree that a vacation to Vegas is good, but Hawaii is better. Same thing when you're building. Wood is good, but metal is better. If you're considering a new building for your farm or business, let Northern Steel Building show you the benefits of metal. Metal is stronger with little or no maintenance, and it doesn't burn. Find out how affordable a metal building really is by visiting northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com, or call 435-677-7300.
KVNU News Time is 4:08. One person died and another is in critical condition after being hit by passing traffic on I-15 in the Ogden area Tuesday. Utah Highway Patrol officials say a pickup truck hauling a trailer pulled over to the shoulder after suffering a flat tire, possibly two, while traveling northbound near 24th Street before noon. As the passengers were standing outside, another truck hit them both, throwing one over the median to the southbound lanes. The highway was closed in both directions as emergency crews responded to the scene. Two southbound lanes were closed for about 2 hours, according to UHP. Because of highway dangers, drivers who suffer a flat tire are advised to call a towing company to make repairs rather than attempt to change the tire themselves at that location. One downtown Salt Lake City hotel is embracing the beehive state, literally housing 40,000 bees on its rooftop to help protect the vital link bees play in food production. Hilton Salt Lake City Center's beehives have produced 15 gallons of raw honey as part of its Honey with Purpose program, along with local partners, Bees Brothers, and Grow Brighter Gardens. Hilton Salt Lake City Center's general manager Garrett Parker said they could base their sustainability measures on energy efficiency alone, but they wanted to do something more unique. Warming temperatures and rising CO2 levels have reduced the worldwide bee population, threatening global food security. KVNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. News Talk KVNU.
Whoa, that sounds great, sweetie.
All right, that's a great pass. Now get open. Okay, now slowly take your foot off the brake. Slowly, slowly.
Whatever your kids do, you're always there to support them. So make sure you support their health too. Stay up to date on immunizations and well child checks. Visit uptodate.utah.gov to learn more.
Even though the weather's grown colder, you still have time to have your fruit trees pruned. Logan Extermination says your trees need to be trimmed back in order to achieve success next year. And this is the first step to a bountiful harvest. However, you could do more bad than good if you don't know what you're doing. Save the headache and call Logan Extermination today and get a jump on tree pruning. Prices will vary depending on your needs. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is a beautiful, turn the air conditioning in the car on, at least for a couple of hours here this afternoon, Wednesday afternoon.
Or roll down the windows.
Oh, I had to go full-on air conditioner today. It was that warm, which I'm not complaining. I like it, but it's October 5th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well, and we're going to jump right in today because we're starting things off with a very special guest to talk to us about the latest research published by the Utah State University John M. Huntsman School of Business Utah Women and Leadership Project. Our good friend, the inaugural Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership and Director of the project at Utah State University, Dr. Susan Madsen, sent along this note this morning as part of a release on some new research. They're publishing a white paper on women in business, women-owned businesses in Utah, the status, challenges, and opportunities. Joining us right now to talk about exactly that is a person with the organization that came to the Utah Women in Leadership Project and said, we need to dig into this. We have with us the State Director of Women's Business Center of Utah, Anne Marie Wallace. And Anne Marie, I appreciate you taking some time for KVNU today. Just as our conversations with Dr. Madsen, I'm always excited to talk with you guys about this, and I always want to start off by saying you're brave because this is not easy research to disseminate by phone or even here in the studio, right? It's complex.
Right, there's a lot to it.
That's right. Maybe you can start us off. Tell our listeners a little bit about the Women's Business Center of Utah and what that organization is all about.
No, I'm happy to, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here with you.
Oh, it's our
the
pleasure.
Women's Business Center of Utah is a nonprofit entrepreneurial center that is funded in part by federal dollars. So your taxpayer dollars come around to help you again. The center has been around since 1997, providing one-on-one advising and training at no cost or very little cost to women and also men around the state. So we help women start and grow their own businesses.
Oh, very cool. So that alone is an opportunity for listeners out there if you would benefit from some of that. I've linked to their website on our Facebook page, but it is WBC, get it? Women's Business Center, WBC Utah, spelled out UTAH, WBCUtah.org. And so, Emery, so you guys turn to Dr. Madsen and her team at the Utah Women in Leadership Project, and you say, we need a better understanding of all this, right?
Yes, absolutely. When the Women's Business Center of Utah was started, hosted by the Salt Lake Chamber in 1997, there was a report. There was a survey done at that time, and we hadn't done another one since 1997. And I came to Susan and I said, we need to do, it's been 20 years. It's been more than 20 years.
Wow.
We need to see where we're at now and maybe add a few questions to the survey as well.
And it's fascinating to me because this white paper put out from this survey, from this research through the Utah Women in Leadership Project at Utah State University starts right off answering the question of what is the economic impact, the economic power of women business owners in Utah, and it's huge.
It is huge, yes. Women own and operate, control businesses here in Utah, and it's a great part of our the total revenue that all the businesses earn in our state. It's controlled by women. And if I may say, women control a lot of the spending at home. So if they're involved with home economics and also business, they're a huge part of our economy.
And this is despite an embarrassing fact, which is that it has only been since 1988 here in Utah that a woman could apply for a business bank loan without having a man sign with her, right?
That was a U.S. federal law. Can you believe that? That's just ridiculous.
If someone said that was in the case in the 1920s or 30s, I would have thought, sure. But 1988, I thought we were further along at that time than apparently we were. But thankfully that has changed. But it just goes to show how much energy there is behind this and how quickly that the economic footprint of women who own businesses has grown here in Utah.
Yes. In fact, you take barriers away or out of the way of women. Women start businesses despite all these barriers, but you take them away and it's even more facilitated and more exponential, actually, for women's opportunities to be business owners here in our state.
So as this research was done, did you find, because we see this in all other business research, that there are certain trends and, fads and bubbles, but then there are also staples. There are things that throughout the decades have always been, a staple of businesses owned by Utahns. Did you find the same thing looking into women who start and run businesses?
I have. I looked at the research as well. I think it's shifted a little bit, but women generally gravitate towards services because women like to help others, and that's kind of ingrained in us.
That makes sense.
Service industry compared to products, that's where we find most women, but not all. And I think there's a shift towards more product-based. But that's why women were so heavily impacted by the pandemic, where so many service-related businesses were greatly impacted by such a reduction in, orders and shopping.
That is, it was fascinating to me as I read through this, Emery, that there's some historical context that becomes a part of the white paper to help people understand why what you're seeing in this report from this surveying, why it's so noteworthy. And part of that is how Utah has ranked over the years in relation with neighboring Intermountain states. Is it possible to just, say we're sitting here, we're 40th, we're 30th, we're 29th nationwide, or is it more fluid than that year to year?
I think it's more fluid than that. And there's not, to be honest with you, there's not a lot of data that's being gathered here in our state about women-owned businesses or women who own businesses. And that's something, I had lunch with the governor last week, and I said, one thing we need is data. So hopefully that is something that they, and the state of Utah is working on that with the Department of Commerce to gather more data about our women-owned businesses. Otherwise, like we have been, we have to look at federal data and census data to get information about our own state. And, our women, and these are based on, 2 different reports. Last year, as you might have known about the Wallet Hub survey, where women in many aspects, including entrepreneurship, collectively, we ranked dead last in women's equality in our state.
Yeah.
But yet our women, business owners are ranking very high compared to women in other states. So that means that we, compared to other states, do really well when it comes to growth in the number of companies we start and grow, the revenue that we earn, and the employees that we employ compared to other women. But when we compare our women to the men in our state, that's where it's not equal at all.
That's and it was interesting to me because, as we've discussed, the research itself is complex. There is a part of this where the white paper gets into recommended solutions for various things, and this one, Emery, really stood out to me because it seems like such a no-brainer, but it also surprises me that it would make this much of a difference. But one of the previous reports from the Utah Women Leadership Project suggested this as well, that one way to reduce this inequality is to incentivize women getting into business, which could change the landscape by about 3%, which would make a huge reduction in that inequality. What's the holdup? I mean, I know you've been talking with Governor Cox. Governor Cox himself has said this is a priority for him. The legislature is working on this as well. Is it complex to get these mechanisms in place?
Well, I think it is complicated, like you mentioned before. There are barriers to women that men just don't have, and those are still problems. I mean, inequality in accessing capital or getting loans for a business. Some of those are subjective. Some of them, women sometimes don't tend to go after as much money. So there's both sides, the advocates and allies as well as women themselves, the support and resources available to them. A lot of times women don't realize what is available to them. Like our center, we're basically offering free services around the state to anyone, and yet not everyone knows about that or other services that are available. And I think another thing that is really critical, and it is mentioned in the report, is childcare. And that's an issue not just for women who are employed by others, but employ themselves.
Sure. And that's, this is where the work of, organizations like the Women's Business Center of Utah, the work of Voices for Utah Children, the work of lawmakers researching into this, it all starts to converge a little bit because we realize that, some of these are actual public policy issues. It's not as simple as saying, women are just not as interested in starting their own business or hiring employees. That's probably
not true.
That's probably not the case, right?
Right. It's not. No, not at all. But it's interesting, though. I mean, there's society or social things that prohibit women sometimes or make it difficult for some. And then there's, like you mentioned, the policy. That's definitely something that needs to be worked on because, like I said, it affects anyone who has, school-aged children that works, whether in the capacity of working for someone or for themselves.
This is, for listeners, it's fascinating to read, and there's so much to it that we couldn't possibly do it full justice here in this interview, but we're going to do our best. And of course, you're welcome to join us if you have a comment or a question, 753-5868. Our guest, again, is the State Director of Women's Business Center of Utah, Anne-Marie Wallace. Their website, again, wbcutah.org, Utah spelled out, not just UT, wbcutah.org. I've linked to that on our Facebook page, and we're talking about a new white paper by the Utah Women in Leadership Project, working with the Women's Business Center of Utah to understand entrepreneurship for women in Utah. What are some of the challenges, the successes? What does the landscape look like right now? And we'll talk more about it right after this.
It's USU Homecoming Week, and you can show your Aggie pride with a stop at the Aggie fans' favorite place to shop, and that's Locker 42. They have a store full of everything Aggie. Aggie logo jackets and hoodies and long and short sleeve T-shirts. Pick out a new Aggie hat from dozens of hat choices as well. Game time temperatures will be cool, but you can stay warm with a plush Aggie blanket. Shop the Locker 42 location that's the most convenient for you. 1430 North Main next to Little Caesars, and the flagship store downtown at 36 South Main.
Over budget by $2 million.
withholding financial information from the county council, making large financial commitments without the council's knowledge or approval. This is all public record, and none of it is acceptable from your county executive. I'm Mark Ensign. I intend to restore order, trust, and transparency to the Cache County Executive's office. Write in Mark Ensign.
To learn more, visit ensignforcachecounty.com. Paid for by Mark Ensign.
This is former Cache County Executive Lynn Lemon. I wholeheartedly support Mark Ensign. I hope you will make the extra effort to write him in for County Executive.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Our guest again, State Director of the Women's Business Center of Utah, Anne-Marie Wallace, and their website. I'm going to throw this out again. If you're out there listening, if you know someone out there who would be interested, the services offered through the Women's Business Center of Utah. As Anne-Marie said, oftentimes people don't know about these, but they do have a focus on northern Utah, southern and eastern Utah, rural areas, trying to get opportunities and services expanded for women who are even just exploring an idea to go into business for themselves, to start up a business where you can access funding, where you can find online courses and webinars on everything from the legal paperwork necessary for articles of incorporation to how you can team up with others and learn from their experiences as you get off the ground yourself. It's an amazing resource. And again, the website is Women's Business Center of Utah, wbcutah.org. I've linked to that on our Facebook page. And Anne-Marie is joining us today because a white paper has been published by USU's Utah Women in Leadership Project. This research project was a request of the Women's Business Center of Utah, and the request was basically, what does the entrepreneurial world look like for women in Utah? Where are we at? Where are we going? Where have we been? All of that. And the white paper includes it all. And Anne-Marie, like I said, there's so much to this. We couldn't possibly touch on every aspect of even just the white paper itself. But so with your experience as state director of the Women's Business Center of Utah, was there anything in this white paper as it came out that just made you think, wow, I did not expect that? Or was most of it, I kind of expected that?
Yeah, some of it, I'd say most of it was kind of within the realm of like, oh, that's kind of what I thought. It's a little bit different, of course, the exact numbers. But one thing I have to mention is that at especially the beginning of the press release that we put out, Utah Women's Leadership Project put out, it mentioned that the state of Utah, 16% of our businesses are women-owned. But I do have to clarify what that means because there are far more women-owned businesses than 16%. So this is a clarification. The piece of data or the data that they looked at, and I forget the name of it, it's like the business index, looked at businesses that had at least one employee or more. Now, the majority of women-owned businesses in our state and many states do not have any employees. So 16% are the ones big enough to make it into the index. So just something for people to know. I think the numbers of women-controlled companies, even if they don't have an employee, is more like 30 to 40%.
Interesting. That
to me, 16%. That's not that is not all of them, but that is the group that they're looking at.
That is, this is interesting. This popped up a bit in the white paper, too, because I was thinking about this myself, Anne-Marie. There's a woman I know who has run a very successful business, a sole proprietorship, for decades. And this has augmented their household income. This has helped them buy vacations. This has been, but it's not something she does full time. She spends most of her time, at least for the last few years, with the kids, getting them off to school, getting them. But when I've spoken with her, she does not describe herself as a business owner. And yet, I've said to her many times, look, you bought the whole family went on a very expensive vacation, and you paid for that with money you got through this, what you describe as a hobby. Is there a bit of that, do you think, here in Utah, where you have someone who is, they are a business owner, but they don't think of themselves that way?
I definitely see that. Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Sometimes women don't take their role in what they do as seriously as it really is, because according to the IRS, any attempt to make a business, of course with a legal entity, is a business A hobby is where you're not attempting to make a profit. She has an absolute business. For some of our training, we have a training called Minding My Own Business, which I think is a clever name. But we decided to not call it Minding My Own Small Business, because business has the same principles, whether you're a corporation or a very small solopreneurship. So I do think that women don't give themselves enough credit. And I also think that sometimes when women are in industries that are women-dominated or their industry serves other women, they're also not taken seriously by the community or by lenders.
That's such an interesting aspect of this, and I hope we can change that. And this is obviously, looking at this white paper. Well, let's put it this way: if all of the women in this state, whether they think of themselves as business owners or not, who are owning and operating, running a business, if all of them decided to quit tomorrow, that would be a chunk of our economy gone missing overnight that we wouldn't be able to absorb without pain. So this is a very big factor, right?
Absolutely. And there might be companies or products that you contract with or buy from that you didn't even realize were actually women-owned and controlled, because sometimes that's not something they put on the front of the business. Sometimes you're surprised to know, oh my gosh, that big company or that small company around the street is actually woman-owned. We don't realize how much impact there really, truly is.
That is fascinating, and I'm glad that both you and your organization and Dr. Madsen and the Utah Women Leadership Project are doing so much to create a better understanding, to change some of this. For listeners out there, just one more time, I want to throw this out. They offer free one-on-one business advising, group trainings, 24/7 access to webinars and more. All of this in intent on helping women get businesses up and running. If you've got an idea, if you've toyed with it for years and just always found, which was my experience as well, that there's an excuse not to take the risk, they're here to help you. The Women's Business Center of Utah. Their website again, wbcutah.org. And we're talking about, again, a white paper you can download, published today by the USU Women and Leadership Project, headed up by our good friend Dr. Susan Madsen, on women in business in Utah, women-owned businesses in Utah, status, challenges, and opportunities. And maybe that's a good place for us to wrap up here today, Anne-Marie. From your experience with the Women's Business Center of Utah, what you all learned through this research project and white paper published today by the Leadership Project, if you could wave a magic wand or go to state lawmakers and say, do this first, and have them just do it, what would that be? Where's the first step to making this better?
You know what? That's a good question. I have two pieces of low-hanging fruit that I think are important. The first is to have a question on the business registration that is required but has an opt-out. Is this a woman-owned business? There is a question, but it's not required and it's not defined. I think that tracking that information is going to be helpful to measure and be able to make change. The other is diversity in their contracting. So the government, whether it's the federal government or state government, they contract with businesses to do services and products that they don't have in-house. And the federal government has a goal to do contracts. 5% of the contracts should go to women-owned businesses. Our state, I think, should have that goal. Not 5%. They should do more than 5%, but they need a goal of how many contracts go to women-owned businesses.
Sure. And
spread it out, and kind of level the playing field a little bit. I think it should be closer to the 30% if that's the percentage of the businesses that women own.
That is... Man, well, you've converted me as a lobbyist here on this, for what that's worth. I'm going to be asking every lawmaker I get a chance to talk to in the next, heading into the legislative session, if this is something we could do, because it would be fascinating to see and to find out more, as this white paper does, on what some of the challenges are and what's keeping. Because you have to assume, Anne-Marie, the numbers that you found in the surveying, the numbers that we all know of from our own personal lives, the number of women with an idea who are in business already, you have to assume that's just the tip of the iceberg of those who maybe want to, right?
Absolutely. There are businesses. We want to create a bigger pipeline of businesses that get into business, but we also want to help those that are already in business to expand and grow if that's what they want to do, to be able to get to their hire their first employee and actually get on the ranking that, was mentioned at the beginning of this report in the press release, because you can do so much good in this world if your business is profitable. That's what I think.
Absolutely. And we all benefit from that. If for, in no other way, something new available in your local community that wasn't before. But most of us benefit much more than that. This is fascinating. Anne-Marie Wallace, State Director of the Center, almost sneezed, the Women's Business Center of Utah. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show with us today, and always a great opportunity to talk about research being done through Dr. Madsen's Utah Women in Leadership Project at Utah State University. And I hope we get a chance to check in again soon and see where things have gone.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, appreciate your time. Our pleasure. And to our listeners for tuning in. Again, the website, if you know anyone interested in business, maybe in business but needing a little leg up here or there, looking to expand, not sure how, that's what the Women's Business Center of Utah is all about. WBCUtah.org. Free business advising, free group trainings, 24/7 access to webinars, all related to everything from business legal paperwork to securing funding if you want to expand a business you're already running. It's amazing stuff, and it's free. WBCUtah.org. For the Utah Women in Leadership Project, if you want to see this white paper or other research they've done, it's utwomen.org. Both of those are linked on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:36, and the news is brought to you by Whole Tree Care. A candidate forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Cache Valley will be held this evening at the First Presbyterian Church of Logan. On KVNU's For the People program last week, Kendra Penry of the local chapter talked about why they wanted to do this.
We wanted to host a candidate forum so people can come out and ask questions and figure out who they want to vote for, not necessarily because of what party they represent, but because of the issues and what matters to people who live here in Cache Valley, to make sure that the person that holds office is able to speak to what matters to each person and can represent us effectively.
Candidates scheduled to be at the forum include Democrat Holly Gunther running for the 3rd House District, Democrat Patrick Belmont running for 4th House District, and Republican Dan Johnson, incumbent for the 4th House District. They are scheduled to be at the forum to introduce their platforms and answer questions. Penry said they have a link on their Facebook page if you'd like to submit questions ahead of time. It's 6:30 tonight is the event. But she said the location, again, 178 West Center in Logan, the First Presbyterian Church. You can get more information on their Facebook page or lwvutah.org/Cache Valley. The investigation into the disappearance of 19-year-old Dylan Rounds is now being considered a possible homicide. Officials say James Brenner, who is in custody on federal weapons charges, is considered a suspect in the investigation. The 59-year-old Brenner lived in a trailer near Rounds Farm in Lucin, where he was last known to be when he disappeared on May 25th. The Box Elder County Sheriff's Office has been working with several other agencies, including the Weber County Sheriff's Office and FBI, in their search. On July 6th, county officials asked the public to stop looking in the area for Rounds, as it had the potential to compromise the investigation. The mayor and city council of Preston are getting a jaw-dropping dose of reality as they face Idaho Department of Environmental Quality regulations, inflation, supply chain issues, and the price tag of replacing their antiquated wastewater treatment plant. Preston Mayor Dan Keller said they are in the 4th year of a 7-year deadline of what they thought was going to be a $30 million wastewater improvement project. But so far the bids have been twice that, near $60 to $75 million. Currently, the total phosphate the city emits from their wastewater treatment plant exceeds DEQ requirements, and the city was mandated to reduce that phosphate emissions. The plant was built some time ago, and the city has experienced significant growth since it was constructed. Keller said the water going into Worm Creek is cleaner than water in the creek itself, and the unfunded government mandates are hard to swallow. The aging sewer and water systems are in need of a major overhaul. A utility rate increase is inevitable. Keller explained that they have been telling residents it is going to be a $34 million project and cost citizens $30 to $40 increase a month. Now they have to say residents could see an increase of $111 to $150 a month for the next 40 years. Preston is currently on the lower tier in the state for utility costs. Keller said he has spent a lot of time calling different agencies in Boise trying to get someone to work with Preston City. The mayor and city council are mulling over their options while trying to find a solution to their high-priced government-mandated wastewater treatment system without overburdening Preston City residents. KVNU News Time is 4:40.
Remember last October's huge snowstorm that destroyed trees all over Cache Valley? Bobby and his crew at Hall Tree Care were the most popular guys in town.
Yeah, high five.
Not saying that will happen again. However, I just looked at the forecast for winter and it calls for snow. Snow can wreak havoc in your overgrown trees and shrubs, which can wreak even more havoc in your home and vehicles. Call Hall Tree Care before winter gets here. 760-6587. Ask about their radio discount. That's HULL Tree Care.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, low around 40, and then sunny upper 70s on Thursday, sunny mid-70s on Friday. It's been to 74 today. Right now it's 73 at KVNU. Bring back the sounds you've been missing. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Daines at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Good afternoon. This is Raydale Gibbons bringing you the Daily Financial Markets Report on behalf of financial advisor Mike Arnold and Edward Jones. After 2 days of gains, the market moved lower amid stronger than expected job gains and an oil production output cut from OPEC. Growth-style investments underperformed value-style investments as the markets anticipate further federal tightening. On the international front, Asian shares were higher while the European shares were lower. Today, the U.S. equities closed lower. The Dow Jones closed down 42 points at 30,274. The NASDAQ closed down 28 points at 11,149. And the S&P 500 closed down 8 points at 3,783. In the bond market, the 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 3.75% higher by 13 percentage points. Today, the price of crude oil was up $1.36 at $87.88. And the price of gold was down $5 at $1,725.50. For stocks of local interest, Autoleaf closed down 87 cents today at $73.61. Chevron's up 90 cents at 158.53. Dominion Energy is down $2.49 at 69.01. Home Depot's up 29 cents at $289.85. Kroger's down 10 cents at 44.60. Lowe's is up $1.61 at 199.03. McDonald's is up 59 cents at $239.09. Microsoft's up 32 cents at 249.20. Nucor is down $1.46 at 117.85. Philip Morris is down 3 cents at 86.97. And Walmart stores closed down $1.33 at $132.92. This has been today's Financial Markets Report brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, a member of SIPC, and financial advisor Mike Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice, located at 135 North Main, Suite 102 in downtown Logan. If you'd like additional information, please contact our branch office at 753-2915. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And I'm really excited for this next interview because it is with one of my favorite people who's, I have to start out by saying, whose resume is getting harder and harder to list as I introduce her when she's a guest here on the show. We are speaking now with former Logan City Council member, former school board representative, former education advisor to the governor of the state of Utah, Governor Herbert, now joining us representing an organization that we'll call the Dignity Project, because they have launched something here in Utah called the Dignity Index. And what it is so fascinating, and the potential impact it can have is, I think, could not be overstated. It's one of those things that you read about and think, why has no one else thought of this? Joining us right now, our good friend Tami Pyfer, and Tami, I'm sure that thought. I mean, as much as you've been involved in government here in Utah, from city government to school board to the governor's office as an advisor, this has probably gone through your head a million times, right? How has no one thought to make dignity a focus in our campaigns and more?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, and it's always this huge boost to my self-esteem when you introduce me in. Like, everyone, just lower your expectations, first of all. But, I love being on your show, visiting with you again, and when you say, why has no one thought of it, I had to laugh because it's taken about 2 years to really put this all together, and that's, people have thought about it. It's just a lot of hard work to do it, and to have all the right pieces come together. But I agree with you. I don't think we can overstate what impact, if this idea catches on, the impact that we could have on our public discourse. You know, there's a congressman last summer. I was watching a committee hearing. And they were talking with groups like Braver Angels and people that are trying to heal these divides. And Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, he's from Missouri, and he said there are agencies and organizations that score us on everything we do, except there's not one single organization that scores us on how we speak to each other. He said they don't score us on decency and civility, and so it's easy to come to the conclusion that that's not important. And then he followed that by saying, you know, if you started giving us a score, we'd start paying attention to it. And having been an elected official, and the surveys that you get and the questionnaires you fill, and you get rated, especially at the state level, on the votes that you take on a number of things. No one rates you on the tone of your public discourse or how you treat your opponents. And I mean, that's true. That's all there is to it.
Sure.
So we're going to start. There was
fascinating
for us in the
this
market.
Is, and as I understand it, the way this will work is a scale, a 1 to 8 scale. That now you're not going to be looking at any rhetoric as far as its partisan bias or whether it's coming from a Democrat or a Republican. You're going to be looking at things basically to see if there are signs of contempt or disparaging of one's opponent, and then giving it this dignity scale and being able to go back to candidates, for example, and say, hey, you're landing a 2 on this dignity scale. Right. Maybe you need to think about that. This is a fascinating idea.
Well, and there's been a lot, like you said, it's taken about 2 years. There's been a lot of work reading, a lot of writers and thinkers and behavioral scientists and social scientists, and words matter. I mean, it's very well documented on the language that can lead us to war, to genocide, and it's the words that we use that matter, or the language that can lead us toward, they call it civility, but again, that's also a low bar. It's like being civil to someone is one thing, but treating them with dignity is a much higher bar. And you can look at the words you use and they determine that. For example, you said a 1 on the bottom end of the scale, 1 or a 2. That type of language is, those people are evil. They're going to ruin our country. If we let them, it's us or them. And that's a 2 on a scale of 1 to 8. And you're probably laughing because we hear that every day.
Sure.
Those people are evil. The Democrats are evil. The Republicans are evil. They're going to ruin our country. It's us versus them. So that would get you a low rating on the scale. But you move up to the scale, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no,
if you move up on the scale, so from a 1 to a 4, you're kind of in the contempt zone. And the 5 to the 8 is when you start to drop the contempt and start to see other people as having some inherent value. For example, number 5 is, the other side has a right to be here, and they have a right to be heard. It's their country, too. I'm not, super curious about our disagreements, or I'm not super curious about working with you, but you have a right to be here. You're not evil. And you get up to a 6, or a 7, and it's like, I'm going to talk with you. I'm going to engage with you. I don't agree with you, but let's work on the things that we have in common, and let me learn more about that so we can solve problems. And that's the reason we're applying this to political speech right now, I hope, is obvious. It's because we are not solving any problems because we treat each other with contempt.
Sure.
In Congress, politicians, and you can't solve problems when you hate the other side. You just can't.
This is particularly fascinating to me from a political standpoint. I mean, I can see, Tami, how this would be useful as a way to think about how we talk to each other in relationships, coworkers, marriages, all of this.
Yep.
But for me, particularly in politics, I remember way back political science class and the term elimination rhetoric. And it was a study of when there was the shift in election coverage and talk in this country, where things went from we're going to beat the other party in the next election to phrases and terms like we're going to crush them, we're going to stomp them, we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth. And that elicited a real response from voters. So both major parties started ginning it up even more and more. So that presents a very unique challenge that you're trying to address, right?
Right, exactly. And there's certain language, as we've done this study, we're looking at developing some artificial intelligence that, that you could do this. You could run, a speech through our, soon-to-be developed AI and get a score. But there are things that you look for, the name calling, the demonization of people, and you can program in what that language looks like. To me, the name calling one is it's just so easy because we all see it every day. The lefty liberals, the gun-toting Republicans, whatever you think is a pejorative, you're going to put onto whatever party you don't like,
Sure.
And we hear the name calling a lot, and that gets you down on the scale of contempt. I'm just going to call you names.
That is,
and you can target that pretty quick and put it on the scale pretty quickly.
Sure. This is also an aspect of this that I really respond to. There's also, for listeners out there, through Project Unite, the group behind this Dignity Index pilot that's launching here in Utah, you can take a pledge at the website dignityindex.us. And what's unique about taking the pledges is, as I went through this, Tami, it actually made me think about, I would describe myself as a pretty calm person on this front. And I've learned through this show over the years. In fact, I had this conversation off air with Senator Mike Lee just on Monday. I can disagree with everything a person might vote for or push forward legislatively. But I've learned through this show that when you meet them, and remember they're human beings, it's really hard not to like most of our state lawmakers and federal representatives. They're great people in general. And this pledge reminded me of that. It made me think of this fact that we need to think about these things, but we're not conditioned to think about these things. So I'm so excited this pilot is launching in Utah. And I should point this out for listeners as well, with a lot of support. The Hinckley Institute of Politics, the Kempsey Gardner Institute, the Deseret Management Corporation, Larry H. and Gail Miller Foundation. So you've got some big names behind this. Also, former colleague of yours, guy you might remember working with, former Governor Gary Herbert, is an advisor to this as well. Tami, I have to ask you, as a way to wrap up here, as you think about dignity, as you think about this index and getting people engaged in at least being more aware of how we talk to each other, do you have a personal story you tell from your time as education advisor to Governor Herbert or other times before that where you say, if I'd been able to walk up to this person and say, you are currently a 2 on the dignity scale, the conversation would have gone much further?
Well, here's the personal story is I did learn a lot from working with Governor Herbert. He could work with just so many different people, and I would be fuming about something and come in and I would see that we're meeting with one of these people I'm fuming about, and he's going, Tami, you've got to sit down and listen to these people. You have to because I get so passionate about something. And I learned what I've learned from him translated into the scale, but the biggest lesson is looking back at myself. right? Because I was just going to say, I'm like you. I feel like, I have pretty great dialogue with people. I don't call people names. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't think it's us versus them. But I can jump to judgments pretty quickly, and I can look at someone and say, oh, man, you're one of those people in my head. And so this dignity index it's just been this huge change for me to apply it every single day to everyone I meet in my family, people in the community, and I've had to soften, my stance on so many issues, because it's like, maybe if I knew you better, let me do some of the 7 language so I can get to know you better and understand what has brought you to this point and why we disagree. So this is really a self-help tool.
This is
very much a self-help tool.
Oh, I plan to use it the same way myself. I'm really sincerely fascinated by this and to see where it goes. For listeners, go check it out. Take the pledge at dignityindex.us, where some of the ratings will also be posted as they put these together. And the whole project, again, is to get us away from language and thoughts of contempt and elimination to thoughts of dignity and acceptance of another person's place and right to be there without thinking they need to be pushed out or that somehow your point of view is cheapened because they're able to have a voice as well. It's a fascinating approach. And Project Unite doing some amazing work. Check them out and visit dignityindex.us. And
when you sign a pledge, sign up to be on our list, and I'll keep we can keep you abreast of all of the things that are happening during this demonstration project.
Oh, perfect. Tami, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show again, and I hope we don't wait so long to speak again soon and follow up on all of this. And listeners, please check it out, dignityindex.us, the Dignity Index through Project Unite, launching a pilot program here in Utah that's hopefully going to mean change nationwide, maybe even worldwide, from such a simple perspective to something so important. Check it out, dignityindex.us, and we'll be back right after this.
This is Mark with Roof Rescue. Most of us don't think about our roofs very often until you see shingles on the ground or water drips through your ceiling. Keep your roof in tip-top shape to protect your home, your biggest investment. Roof Rescue uses only the highest quality materials with experienced workmanship guaranteed to last. Even if you were denied by your insurance company the first time, a free re-evaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation in Cache Valley and surrounding areas. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, they can work with you to help ensure you're prepared for the future. After all, retirement isn't the end of the road, it's a new beginning. Call one of the 7 branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Attention business owners. Did COVID negatively impact your business due to a shutdown, supply chain issues, or other government mandates that forced the way you could operate? Even if your business made money during the pandemic, you might qualify for the Employee Retention Credit. Let us help your company receive a payroll tax refund authorized by the federal government's CARES Act. Tax and payroll specialists will walk you through the process, maximizing your refund amount. Get this completed with no out-of-pocket cost to you or your business. Timing is critical. Don't delay in calling us at 435-213-3200 or go to ERCGoNow.com.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, with the biggest cruise promotion of the year, with huge discounts off your cruise fare and free amenities. Sail the 7 seas with Royal Caribbean and Morris Columbus Travel. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Which is better, a hammer or a screwdriver? It depends if you have a nail or a screw. At Top Job Asphalt, they know that, and it's not one size fits all. With a variety of services and products, they can meet any pavement need and budget. Call 764-0451 and let their pavement experts give you a free estimate on any asphalt job. Best products, best services, guaranteed. 764-0451 or topjobasphalt.com. Choose the best. Choose Top Job Asphalt.
Ride the bus to the North Logan Pumpkin Walk Thursday through Saturday, October 6th through 8th, and Monday and Tuesday, October 10th and 11th. The Cache Valley Transit District will provide zero-fare bus service from Greenville Elementary to the Pumpkin Walk at Elk Ridge Park. Bus service begins at 6 p.m. and runs till 10, beginning at Greenville Elementary. The CVTD bus is always warm, dry, and clean, and gets you closer to the entrance of the Pumpkin Walk. Have fun, be safe, and enjoy this year's North Logan Pumpkin Walk by riding with the Cache Valley Transit District.
This is not really, a perfect segue into hour two, our interview with Tami Pyfer there, talking about the Dignity Project, pilot project launching in Utah here this week. By the way, this will be a regular part of the show. It's an 8-week pilot, and we're going to be checking in with them each week to see what they learn. They're going to be doing some surveying, polling, and more, talking with candidates, elected officials, and more. And so this is going to be fascinating to see how this pilot project plays out. We're going to keep on this theme. In hour two, we're going to talk about candidates sniping with each other over petty things. We're going to be talking about communication.